I had 3 calls last week with 3 financial advisors, all within the same firm, and all 3 just great conversations, but they all did different things.
Yeah.
And I think it was a breath of fresh air to probably for them to hear a mortgage guy talk about how I can impact maybe their business and not sit here and be like, hey, I'm going to take. I think it was just very early on for me of like realizing like, hey, this is a smart approach and a better way to maybe gain some trust and build some relationships with the referral partners out there.
Hey guys, Wally Olivieri. All right, so what is 24/7 mindset? Most times when you hear 24/7, you're thinking what? 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just grinding, hustling. You know, I learned over time a 24-year career in mortgage and multiple other businesses that I own is unfortunately, you'll get burnt out. I became an absent father, I became an absent husband, and I became a poor business leader because I was trying to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, trying to build a business, maintain a business. When I learned how to work smarter, not just harder, by doing things the best way it could be done, instead of just simply doing my best, I learned how to work only 24 hours a week, 7 months a year, while I got paid from the business residually 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can do the same. Welcome to the show. All right. Welcome. I'm super excited about today. Kevin and I have a whopping 6-month history together, 6, maybe 7-month history together.
Yep.
We it's very rarely does someone emails me on a weekend and or I think it might have been like New Year's Eve weekend. And we start emailing books back and forth of like novels to each other. But, you know, it's been really cool to grow a friendship with Kevin. Kevin joined the 6 Lane Highway Academy. We both have a love for golf and mortgage. So, Kevin, I appreciate you joining the show, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I learned something about you, and I asked you before the show if there's anything off limits, and you said no. So you sent me a video of you doing stand-up comedy, and I was literally laughing. I started off on the couch, but I think I laughed all the way to the floor. When did that love for stand-up comedy happen? And like, why don't you do that in mortgage? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I think I have tried, and I found that it wasn't as much funny talking about P&I payments. Yeah, so that, it was something I've always kind of wanted to do. And then I think when you grow up with a dad that was a Marine and a lawyer, it's like, that's not a real job being a comedian or whatever else. But I always loved Saturday Night Live and everything else and watched that all the time. And then literally, gosh, I guess that was 20 years ago. That I read something in the newspaper in the business section about a guy that taught stand-up classes, but his position was for like business, right? So that you could get comfortable doing public speaking and all that kind of good stuff. So that launched me signing up for that 6-week class. And then that really got me hooked. At the end of that 6-week class, you gave your 5-minute stand-up routine to 300 strangers. Now it was a very warm, crowd because it was friends and family of everybody else in the class, but that's what launched the comedy. I don't know if it was career or the comedy bug. How about that?
Yeah, I think definitely I'd call it career for sure. The mortgage comedian. All right, what's the biggest stage you've been on, or is it more like what stages have you been on?
The biggest stage I've been on was probably the Hollywood Improv right there on Sunset Boulevard.
Wow. How many people in the audience?
I don't know. It was packed, but and I didn't know I was going up until 15 minutes before. I was actually at dinner with a few friends, and one of the friends is who's actual professional comedian now today. And I was just joking with him. We were having dinner and couple glasses of wine and stuff like that. And I was just like, oh, when am I going to open up for you? I'll be here this weekend. And he's like, you want to do some time? And I was like, sure, I'd love to do some time. And he texted his buddy and he's like, I got you a spot in 20 minutes at the Hollywood Improv. I was like, what? I mean, it's like the Super Bowl of comedy, right? And I'm like, are you kidding? He's like, no, we got to go. He's like, so he told the other friends, he's like, hey, y'all finish up or whatever. I'm going to take Kevin over there. We drove in. It was a Wednesday night, and he pulled up to the door, and we walked in and went to the MC, and he's like, hey, this is my buddy Kevin. I just texted you about it. He goes, you're up next. And I was like,
so do you already have your skit ready to go? Like or do you wing it, or what'd you do?
No. So, I mean, by that point, I've been doing it long enough. So I probably had like various 20, 30-minute spots of comedy. And so, but I had not like, I mean, if I knew I was going to Hollywood Improv, I'd sit there and work and figure out like my best 5 minutes. Right. So no, I had to think real quick. I'm like, okay. And it went fine. I mean, I messed up a little bit. But I was hanging out afterwards, and the guy that got me up there, he's like, hey, good job last night. He goes, if you want it, I got you 10 minutes. This is the next day. He's got, I got you 10 minutes tonight at the Ice House in Pasadena. And I was just like, do I want it? I was like, absolutely. So I drive to Pasadena, actually get a speeding ticket on the way there for doing actually a wrong U-turn. And I went and I did, and I had practiced for like 2 hours. And I went so excited. It went so awesome, and it's like at that point, like 3 a.m. here back home, I'm calling my wife. I was like, I just killed at the Ice House in Pasadena. She's like, that's nice. So I got to do those 2 places back to back when I was out in LA years ago. So
that's funny. It's when you said calling the wife thing. I remember playing golf, and I think I've called her many a times, but I got a hole in one on a par 4. And I remember calling her freaking out afterwards. And she's like, yeah, okay. On your way home, I need you to go by the grocery store. I'm just like, dude, right. I am not going by the grocery store.
She's not the one to call in that situation, right?
Yeah, she can care less.
Yeah.
But okay, so tell me, and we'll get a mortgage here in a minute, but talk to me about what have you tried to do with comedy and mortgage? Like how did that not stick, or what's been going on there?
It's weird. So I started getting into the like start doing videos and all that kind of good stuff when COVID hit, and everybody's like, hey, you know what? Like how do we connect and still talk to referral partners and stuff like that. So I tried doing that. And actually I was working with somebody to help like write like jokes, with me. And so I was kind of combining that, but you know how it is. Sometimes it's like trying to find your voice, a little bit. And I didn't want to go off and be this dancing, goofy, whatever. And so it's there somewhat. It's kind of funny because a lot of people that I've done work with over the years, after they find out that I've done or do stand up, they're like, what? Like, you're very dry. You're not funny. And I'm like, I guess I have 2 personalities, right? It's kind of the work personality. Let's talk about spreadsheets. And then it's like, okay, well, now I'm going to make fun of you.
Well, whoever the free side of you is, let that person come out more often. Because I think you're hilarious. I think you write when you write with so much passion. And watching that video, the stand-up video, I thought that was super, super, super cool because like it would have never. I don't know if I ever could have even done 5 seconds on stage in a group like that. Now put me on stage in front of 2,000-3,000 loan officers, 1,000%. I feel like I crushed that.
Yeah.
But it'd be cool to see you mirror and match the mortgage world as a loan officer or as originator, and then with the comedy skits. But
yeah, no, there's a piece of it where I think I've kind of done a small pause on some of my like social media marketing because I'm like, I don't know if my authenticity is really coming out. So I think that's part of the challenge there is
do you do videos, client like milestones in process? Like the appraisal came in, the title work came in, the underwriting came in.
I typically do like an intro video that goes out to them. And it's easier, once a client has said, hey, you know what, I'm going with you and stuff like that, it's easier for me, or depending on who they get referred from, just to have a little bit more of a, I'd say, relaxed personality, I guess. But I don't know.
The reason I say that is like, okay, so our CRM Salesforce will send out an update when it triggered and the appraisal's in and let him know they made value, or hey, the file's ready to come out of underwriting and now we got about to get clear to close. It'd be freaking hilarious if you had a comedy like 2-minute video about an appraisal and what an appraisal is, and it just made fun of it or the process of it. I don't know. I digress, but I thought that was like, holy smokes, that dude's got a gold mine he's sitting on. He's just got to figure out how to tap into it.
I can't remember which video I sent you, but
you were talking about your dad, and you were talking about
being Irish Catholic and stuff like that.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
So, but I got mad respect for comedians, man. I didn't really appreciate it until like you see some like Dave Chappelle or some Kevin Hart behind the scenes, and the amount of prep that those guys do, or amount of prep that you comedians do before it's just like insane how much time you spend for like 10 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, you if you take a look at Seinfeld and what he did, you realize for 2 years, he would do like 2 shows a night, cause he had access to that in New York. But I mean, he would do 2 shows every single night. And each time, and the crazy thing about comedy is just like very similar to kind of like words matter, or if you're it's just like one word, and then one way to deliver that word can change the effectiveness of that joke. But I just got back, Netflix just had a huge comedy festival out in LA, and 4 of my favorite comedians of all time, which is Seinfeld, Gaffigan, Sebastian Maniscalco, and then Nate Bargatze, they all opened up the event at the Hollywood Bowl, and it was unbelievable.
Wow. Well, that's awesome, man. Good for you. All right. So question, and I always get this wrong, so I'm going to ask it, and this would be me kind of making fun of myself. So is it Dyer or Dwyer?
Dwyer.
Okay.
Yep.
Am I the only Yahoo that misspells or mispronounces it?
No.
Dwyer. Yeah. All right. So talk to me about Kevin Dwyer's mortgage career. How did it start? Where is it at now? Where do you want to see it go?
So it started back in 2002. And I went at the time, I was coming out of being in like technology and software sales for my like first 5 years out of college. And then, we had a family friend that was running a correspondent mortgage company at the time. And I was talking to him, and he's just like, you know what, you're got a big family here. You live still in the same city you grew up, like, and you got the personality. This would be a great fit for you. I'd love to talk to you about being a loan officer. So whenever I met with them, their group was mainly like seasoned loan officers. They didn't have like a training platform or any like junior rookie type of program. So I don't know if you've ever met Zenix or Casey Cunningham. So they were in their very early stages of launching their program. And so I went and did their 6-week course to kind of launch training and everything else along those lines. And then, kind of came out of the gates running. So started with them in 2002. They got bought by SunTrust, probably 2005. Good for them. And then I stayed with SunTrust for a few years, went with a friend and partner of mine to do our own brokerage for a couple of years. And then, we kind of came back. So.
Yeah. So, and that's who you're with now?
No, I've left. I left them. I went with one place, in between. So, I'm kind of technically, I guess, at my 3rd place since over the last like 20 years or so.
Yeah. 3 places in 20 years is still a great number for sure.
Yeah.
So what's your best year ever, and what's your average year been?
Best year ever was right at 90. I think it was 95 million.
Dang. Look at you.
Yeah. And then the average has been kind of around, I'd say 50.
Okay.
But it's been, I mean, it's one of those, like, I think since my very first year in it, it's like, it's steadily, grown, and it's been it's been good. And of course, always what resonated with me with your own book is like, hey, and that's why years ago the guy in my office, we like similar personalities, similar work ethic. We're like, hey, we never have time off on the weekends or, anything along those lines. And it's kind of like, how do you continue to grow, your business with always not having to be the only one generating business, right?
Yeah, definitely know a thing or two about that. So had you heard of me before the book came out or no?
Yeah, I did because I heard you, I think, on a podcast with Jeff Zimpher.
Okay. Yeah. Great guy.
Yep. So that's where I first heard about you and kind of looked you up. And I think maybe at that time you were early stages of trying to launch this whole thing, because I think I reached out about some coaching and some stuff like that. But so yeah, that was probably sometime last year, maybe a year ago.
Yeah. So let's definitely give a shout out to Jeff. You've been in his program for how long now?
I think I'm coming up on 3 years, and I just met him for the first time this past weekend at the Mastermind.
Vegas.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So Jeff is absolutely brilliant. One of the most humble people I've ever met. Super sincere and great imagination, great business mind. So he and I have known each other for probably 3-4 years or so.
Yeah.
We're working on an affiliate partnership, how we can partner together, move forward with both our platforms. But what's been your experience and why would you recommend his program for the listeners?
I mean, there's just like an awesome group that he gets together, weekly on Fridays, just an hour of kind of like talking about wins of the week and then things that are working, not working, all that kind of good stuff. But I think what really helped me from Jeff's standpoint was just he puts together awesome content and he puts together awesome presentations, right? You customize it how you want to. But I think that's always the challenge, is like coming up with, okay, what am I going to go present, or what is the new thing to got to go learn? And he just lays it out there for you. I mean, you got to take the time to like go through the presentations and learn the information and stuff like that. But it's just been great things to actually take to implement in my own business, and then be able to share that with like the realtor partners has been great.
That's awesome. Well, good. What's the name of his business or company?
My Agent Classes.
Okay. So if you're a loan officer, listen to this and you want to learn more, go to Google and type in My Agent Classes and they'll be able to pull it up.
Yeah, it should be right there.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So what attracted you to the whole 24/7 mindset world when you started kind of listening to that, either that or the concierge or the 6 Lane Highway?
Yeah. So, I mean, it started with I was getting a lot of your feeds on either LinkedIn or Facebook or what have you. And it started with the book, really. I took that over Christmas and just read that. And the golf part was a big connection piece for me when you said, hey, anybody that knows how to get on Augusta, not that I know how to get on Augusta, but so I love that part of it, being like, hey, I'm just putting this out there. I'd love to play or whatever. And then, it's sad to say for how long I've been in the business, while I've had a CRM and some things to connect with my past database, I was not actively working that database. And I really, really, over the last, ever since I was in the business day one, like I would not sleep unless I knew that loan was ready to go and close, and it was the client felt like a great experience, right? And you felt like, hey, that was enough to propel. And it was to some degree, but you have to realize that like, no, like you can connect with your past database and really stay in touch with them and really try. So that was a big thing for me, just with the way that you mentioned that, because I think it was a lost piece in my business. And then really, I've done a good job of forming partnerships with financial advisors and stuff like that, but just the different ideas and approaches that you had were just, that's something new. That's something different that I haven't done. And I think that even if you've been in whatever business you've been in, if you've been doing it for a real long time, it's naive to think that you can't learn something new to go out and take to the marketplace. So.
I mean, what's excited about, to me at least, you being in the community, and take this the right way. It's the amount of struggles that you've had and the grit that you've shown.
Yeah.
What I
Thanks.
mean by that is there's definitely other people in the group, like you've seen, like the Brian Schmitz of the world, in 60 days in, he's making 30 extra grand a month, and that keeps growing and such from there. And you've definitely had some success. But what I love about it is you're a true master of understanding the hockey stick, and just it's very small growth until it clicks and it just takes off.
Right.
So
Well, it's what we're hoping for, right?
Well, it's guaranteed to happen as long as you don't quit.
Right.
Simple as that, right? And I'm sure you and I both have had many golf rounds that you're just par, and you keep missing these birdie putts. Then you get like 2, 3, 4 birdies in a row, and you're just like, yeah, it's you're happy you stuck in the fight, you're stuck in the game.
Yep.
So is that grit that you've got? Is that something that you've learned over the years? Is something you're born with, or how can others learn that?
I mean, I don't know if it's born with. Now I am the youngest of 4 boys, so it's one of those things where I think that part of that is learned a little bit, right? Watching others do, and then just realizing what it is that you want. And I mean, that's a huge thing of being out there this past week at the Mastermind Summit out in Vegas. Was like you just start to realize, what people are doing to elevate their game, and not everybody wants that. Not everybody's going to go close, $1 billion worth of loans, and that's fine. But I think whatever that goal is for you, and I just know that I like to be a little bit better than I was yesterday, right? So figure out a way to kind of continue to kind of push, but I just like to go in to try to win. And I think that's why I've enjoyed being in a, 100% commission job, right?
Yeah. What do you feel that, like, what was a defining moment for you, either in the academy or reading the book, or what was like the moment that it finally clicked and there was buy-in to make change?
I think it was just very early on. I mean, I think I bought in, week 1, because I wasn't afraid to pick up the phone and try it, right? And be like, okay, well, let me try this approach, right? I mean, I've got it written right here, like, hey, what are your biggest challenges? What are you doing to address those challenges? And what will you try next? Right.
Yeah.
And as long as I can decide, like, have like a framework, like,
yep.
I'll go out and try it and do it. Right. I had 3 calls last week with 3 financial advisors, all within the same firm, and all 3 just great conversations, but they all did different things.
Yeah.
And I think it was a breath of fresh air to probably for them to hear a mortgage guy talk about how I can impact maybe their business, and not sit here and be like, hey, I'm going to take. So I think it was just very early on for me of like realizing like, hey, this is a smart approach and a better way to maybe gain some trust and build some relationships with the referral partners out there.
Well, it's definitely not gloss over that, because I want you to get a little more detail around that. I think the ability of being different, and I think that now you've learned, now you understand how to be different. Before you knew you needed to be different, which is completely different, right? It's understanding, yes, I know I need to be different, but how the heck are you different?
Yeah.
And now you understand what to say, when to say, and how to say it to be different. When did that click for you?
Well, and I will say too, I think it's a combination too of what I've been doing with Jeff and his classes.
Yep.
Because I feel like this is obviously very crossover in a sense where I can go present a class to 30 agents, right? And then with what I've learned with your program is then, okay, if I'm sitting with them one-on-one, now it's like, here, now go to that next step. I've lured them in and I've attracted them with some awesome content and some things that they can go out and do. And now I have additional things to go in to be like, all right, is this going to be the right partner? So, I mean, I think that clicked in for me fairly early, but is also leveraging some of the things that I was already doing with, because my mind had started rewiring with like, okay, I'm going to go present about chat GPT, or I'm going to go present about YouTube classes and stuff like that. It just kind of came in from a standpoint of being able to go in to ask, ask questions about what's going on for their business and what they want out of their business. And what's great is you can find out pretty quickly, hey, you know what? This probably isn't somebody that I'm going to really partner with, right? Yeah. And then you're not spinning your wheels thinking that you're going to get a ton of business from somebody that doesn't have a lot of business.
Well, I think what's brilliant about that is I can't tell you how many times I get so super duper disappointed when a loan officer says, I've referred so much business to say a financial advisor or whatever, but I haven't gotten anything back. And then you ask a series of questions and you find out it's because the financial advisor doesn't have any business to share back. Right. A lot of it is pre-qualifying your referral partners that they have a give and take mindset. And if they don't have a give and take mindset and you can't set that tone up front, you're going to get taken advantage of 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
So, I think with definitely Jeff's classes, I think the biggest thing that he and I could partner with is, and this is definitely something that I understand my weaknesses, and one of them, at least, I'm sure I've got plenty, but one of them is I am more of a professor when I teach instead of an entertainer when I teach. And one thing that he and I are talking about doing is, hey, how do you take the 6-lane highway or the post-closing referral system, the client concierge system, teach that to loan officers, then they create PowerPoints to go meet with realtors, to go meet with CPAs, to go meet with financial advisors, builders, so on and so on, and have that type of class that they can teach through his PowerPoints, but in an entertainer type of way, instead of the not necessarily boring Wally type of way, but it's very systematic what I teach, and there's not much of a there's not that it's not fun, Kevin. It's not that it's not fun. It's just it's heavy. Am I making any sense?
Yeah, well, and and I've realized that you've got a different personality than I do, right? But I think part of that, the trick is figuring out how to make sure you can still take the nuggets that you have and integrate that in, personality wise. I did see Jeff did that's the first time I've seen him speak live. And obviously he's had a lot of experience, with doing live presentations, right?
Yeah. Well, switch gears for me a little bit. What did you think of the event? Sorry, I missed it, but any big takeaways? Who's your favorite speaker?
I thought it was good. I thought one thing they could probably do, because there was a lot of, loan officer stories, and obviously there's so many, you can't come out of there and be like, okay. And that's sometimes usually my problem. Like even with reading or reading your book and doing some of the classes, I can't go implement everything. Right. And you hear from all these guys throughout the country and all the ways that they approach it. Right. And you're just like, okay. So I thought it would have been so a lot of that was good. I thought that what would have been good is maybe just splice in a few non-industry people, say somebody come in, talk about branding, talk about, marketing, just more from a, not general standpoint, but not specific mortgage, right, to figure out. But it was good. My whole plan was to kind of go out there, just kind of learn and recharge and meet some good people. And, I came back with some great things. One of the easiest things I came back with was somebody was talking about, I have two cards on my desk every day to send out as a thank you. Right. And they're I do that 5 days a week. At the end, I have 545 thank you cards that I have sent out just to whoever it is, right? Whoever pops up. And so I thought it was really good. And then Phil Jones, the client close it out was great as well, as knowing what to say.
Have you ever read the book, Mr. Thank You by John Israel?
No, but you have more books in that brain than any other today.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I promise you. So look up. He's a good.
All of these sitting here from you. I'm just I don't even know where my brain is anymore. I'm overloaded. But
I've definitely been blessed, man. I've read a book a week for the last, golly, going on year 13 now. Year
That's
13, a book a
amazing.
week, which is,
I don't know how you
um,
remember it all.
dude, I love it. I absolutely love it. I think it's you. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it is what it is. I'm ADD, and I'm dyslexic, and I have dysgraphia. So my imagination is like off the charts. So I can like visualize me sitting here talking to Kevin and have like a picture behind Kevin of a unicorn and see what color is like and like I don't miss a beat. So when I'm listening to an audiobook as I'm driving, I'm literally sitting there at a coffee shop with the author, and the author is reading to me, and I'm just digesting in it. Or the author is, I'm listening to the audiobook, and the author is mapping out what he's saying on a whiteboard and drawing me pictures for it. It just resonates. Now,
Yeah.
if you get me in front of a book and hand it to me and I've got to read it, I mean, if you make me read out loud, it sounds like a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
But it's the audiobooks have just been a God bless for me for the sake
Yeah,
of
that's awesome.
retention.
Yeah.
But yeah,
By
Mr.
the way,
Thank.
I was going to give out a shout out, which I think you might know her, but Shayla Gifford also did an
Yeah.
awesome
Oh,
presentation.
stud. She is an amazing woman, amazing mother, amazing leader, woman of faith. I'm a huge fan of Shayla, for sure.
She gave a great presentation too.
Yeah.
Have you read? She mentioned 10x, which I thought was great. I haven't read that one yet. Have you?
Yeah. There's a sequel that 100x is better than 10x, and the whole thing about mindset around is how to think bigger. So, but anyway, going back to the John Israel book, look it up. It's called Mr. Thank You, and it talks. I've had him come speak here in Dallas multiple times, and he teaches the importance of the value of a thank you note for the sake of referral relationships or any relationships at all. And then he even gives it granular of like how to structure a thank you note, what to put in there. And it's just like not babbling, but it's super easy book to read. I think it's like 150 pages, but yeah, for sure.
Okay.
But all right, so let's fast forward. Well, actually, one more question. Talk to me about, you met with John White, Northwestern Mutual.
Yeah.
What do you think of him, his world, and how the meeting go? I didn't get an update from you how it went.
Yeah, it went well. Actually, he emailed me just the end of last week, seeing if I could do a loan up in Chicago. But it was fascinating to talk to him because
did you get it?
No, he did not. It was like a refi, and then I was like, yeah, let me anyway. So I reached back out, and because it doesn't sound like loans are a huge thing that he runs across in his world. But he told me a little bit about how he met you and things along that line. I just thought it was really interesting because, I mean, he's probably the 5th or 6th guy I've talked to at Northwestern Mutual. And he's just like, this is what I focus on. I focus on solely doing high net worth life insurance plans. That's what I do. And he's like, I kind of, Northwestern Mutual has, gone into this, more of a financial planning model and things along that line. And this is really what I loved, and I really enjoyed it. And he goes, I love, leadership and everything else and coaching and stuff. And so we had a great conversation, good connection. And then, I said, he's like, yeah, you're probably not in the realm of where I could impact. He's like, I could probably impact you by making connections with other advisors here or whatever. And I was like, well, one thing for sure is just depending on who you're going after. I mean, I was like, I run into a lot of people that have been selling their businesses for millions and millions of dollars and things along that line. And I was like, so he was heading out on vacation, and we have some follow-up connection to meet back up. His office is 2 miles from my house and stuff like that. But it was a good conversation. It was again, he was the 3rd Northwestern Mutual guy I talked to last week, and it was like they all focused on different stuff, and it was great. Right.
But I would definitely stay closer to him for the fact of the connections he can make.
Yeah.
He's I mean, we've been close friends for north of a decade. I think it's been like 2012, 2013 when we first met.
Yeah.
And we go a while back, but we probably still talk weekly today. And but his reach is massive. So the more articulate you can be on what you're specifically looking for, and the better listener you can be for what he's looking for. And if you guys can mirror match that together, it could be a great partnership for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But and as well connected as you are in Atlanta, and so is he, and the golf connections that you have. And I probably wouldn't play golf with him as much as I love the guy. But are you a faster golfer or you're a slower golfer?
Fast.
Same here. I don't care if you shoot a billion, just shoot a billion fast.
I had that. I went, which I love. I took my daughters out to play in the last week at late night, and I was like, and they're newer to it. I'm just like, all right, hit the ball, let's go. But yes, I'm the same, and that came honestly from my old man, because he'll be teeing off on the very first hole, looking over at 14, and be like, "There's a whole hole open over there." I'm like, "Dad, we haven't even teed off yet. Like, why are you worried about 14 holes ahead of us?" But I'm the same.
Yeah, that's funny. But all right, so
I would have pictured you as a slow golfer too.
Me?
Yeah, I would analyzing everything, looking at putts from every different angle.
I take in data for sure. 100% I take in data, but my decision making is extremely quick once I've taken in data. And I even with a caddy, I just want to know two things. I don't want to know three. I don't want to know four. I don't want to know five. I just need to do two things. Give me the line of where would you start it, and give me a percentage. If it's a 80% there, 70% there, 110%, that's all I want to know. Those are the only two things I want to know when it comes to putting. And on the tee box or out of the fairway, I'm like the worst part of my game is bunker game. And so I am, where's the fattest part of the green that I can come in with an iron to stay away from even the bunker completely. Gotcha. So if I can do that, and I don't hit it very far, and I don't have massive swing speed or abilities, so I am the dinker. I'll dink it down the fairway, then dink it to the middle of the green, then dink it down the fairway. I'm like an 80-year-old golfer. I'm like the little dinker.
I just lost a match this past Saturday to a dinker, and I was just like, golly. I was like, he's way back there, and
yeah, you could be coming in with an 8-iron. I'm coming in with a hybrid, but I'll still be in the middle of the green.
I tell you what, it's the chip hitting and putting that'll always get you when you play if you play like a guy who's 70 years old, and you're just like, oh, he can't even, and then next thing you know, he's just getting up and down.
he's closing you out on 14. Yeah. All right. So one last question, and I'll let you go. Where are we going to see Kevin? Let's go 12 months from now. What do you want your business to look like 12 months from now that we can keep you accountable to?
Yeah. Right now, I guess I would like to get more steady, referrals in. It still seems like kind of an ebb and flow. We're working on that a little bit with everything, with my assistant, just, connecting with past database, asking for referrals throughout the process. But
nice.
I would, 12 months from now, I would love to see it just a very steady flow from 5 to 7.5 million a month, without the ebbs and flows of here's a $2 million a month, here's a $7 million, that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I think usually what happens when you do that, when I watch that number one reason a loan officer goes from 2 million to 7 million, or 2 million to 5 million back and forth, is they take their foot off the prospecting.
100%. Well, I just had that conversation with Ashley this morning, which is
the only reason to take your foot off the prospecting is because you don't trust the people around you to manage the file once you lock it in.
Yeah.
That's literally the only reason. Yeah.
And I don't know if it's much as that, there's a lot of trust there from that piece. But it's, it's always wanting to kind of go in and be like, hey, I guess, which is a little bit of a trust thing, but
I was going to let you checkmate yourself. Go ahead.
Yeah, I did. I just did. But no, but and that's what's funny is because my team here does a great job from that standpoint. But
I've learned to ask myself to get uncc'd on emails.
yeah,
So I have a weekly pipeline report week. We had it this morning at 10 a.m. and we go through every loan that we've got in the pipeline from A to Z. And I want to know then appraisals in, title works in, under docs out, so on and so on. Outside of that, I don't want to be approving a final CD. I don't want to know when docs go out. I don't want to know what conditions are. I don't want to. I'm definitely not going back to the borrower and getting any of those conditions. So I've learned to exit myself of the post lock process.
Yeah.
And it was zero communication other than 1 hour every Tuesday morning.
Yeah. And I don't get copied, for the most part, but I'm working on that a little bit. Is just like, hey, like if we talk about something in the morning of the pipeline meeting, like don't feel like you've got to come update me like, hey, by the way, I just did I'm assuming you did it. Right. And I think one of the things because I just had kind of a halfway year get together, especially after this last summit. And really, I think one of the things that I'm trying to do is, especially between me and my assistant, is just some consistently tracking the metrics that we truly need and want. And that's what we're going over on as we have a meeting with her just on non-pipeline stuff. And that's something we'll get partially there. And then all of a sudden 3 weeks later, we derail or something, something along those lines, or something else kind of comes in. And it's trying to say hey, you know what, this is what we need to focus on. Let's stay super consistent with this. And then let's track these things.
Oh.
You there?
Yeah, there you are. Yeah. Okay. So you're finished with your thought?
Well, I did finish it. You didn't hear it? It was great.
No, you froze, or maybe I froze.
No, I was just saying that I was
you said you don't complete the projects completely with your.
Well, it's like so. And I remember, is it Shant for the guy from Guaranteed Rate? That's number one. And it's he says every week, right? They go through all the metrics that they put down in place to see exactly what has happened and what's transpired, right?
Yeah.
I think that's one thing I would love to be able to look back and say okay, these are the metrics that we put in place, right? These are the things that we're measuring, going over. Let's truly commit to doing that, and then commit to tracking that on a weekly, daily basis.
Yeah, I would. What helped me a ton there, and it's something I struggle with from time to time. And I wrote this in the book that most people underestimate what they can do in 5 years, overestimate what they can do in 12 months, 1 year.
Yeah.
And if you've got a 12-month goal, see if you can make it a 24-month goal. And I think what you realize, you'll do it in less than 12 months. But it gives you time to mature. It gives you time to make mistakes. It gives you time to keep up motivation. And but yeah, I'm glad to see you wrote that down. That's something I consistently have to remind myself of, almost on a daily basis. So cool. All right, brother. Well, hey, man, as always, I've definitely enjoyed talking with you. I think I love our bond. We've never met in person. I love that we both obviously love golf, but then you're always so professionally curious, and that's it makes it really joyful to share. And thank you for caring to share back.
It was funny. I was gonna email you this past week. I was like, boy, because a lot of those presentations too out at the summit was at the end, all right, here's my QR code and I can coach you. There's a lot of coaching pitches out there. Yeah. Lots. And I was like, Wally, they're trying to get the coaching business going on out here. But it's funny because it's not, the message to me is really, it's really the same. From a standpoint of here's, this is what you got to kind of get in to do. But it was I was like, oh my gosh, by the end of this, I'm going to have 14 different coaches, for everything. One last question for you. Who you taking in the U.S. Open starting on Thursday? It can't be Scotty Scheffler. Cannot be Scotty Scheffler.
Yeah, total long shot. And it's a heart, Heart, heart answer. Tiger.
Tiger.
Yeah,
Wow.
seeing him out there with his son and watching the Golf Channel last night, and it's on maybe it's just the father in me trying to will that, but I think it'd be great to see him win again. How about you?
I've got, only because I did a loan for him, I've got a soft place for Brendan Todd, which he played well there 10 years ago. And I don't know if you ever saw his story. Like, they need a 30 for 30 on his story.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, because the dude won the Byron Nelson, was on fire, and then he couldn't break 80 and almost gave up the game. And then 2 years ago bounces back and he's top in the FedEx. Like, it's unbelievable. I mean, what I would love to see Tiger. I don't think it's possible. I actually, which I know hasn't been the latest fan favorite, like, I think it'd be cool to see Phil pop up this week too and play well.
What do you think of the whole Scheffler? I got 45 seconds and I jumped about 2:00. What do you think of the whole Scheffler? You get the closing words. The whole Scheffler turnbuckle at the in Kentucky.
I mean, so stupid. I mean, it's kind of sad because you realize that if that happened to anybody else, like, they probably wouldn't have been get out of it. They might have been charged with a felony, and it was the dumbest thing I've ever seen, especially once the videos came out.
My 18-year-old son, I won't say my dumb 18-year-old son, my 18-year-old son that acts like he's an 18-year-old child, went on Amazon and ordered a free Scotty t-shirt, and it's like his mugshot. Like, he was wearing it around the house last night. I'm like, dude, you're crazy. All right, brother, I gotta run.
Good to see you.
Take care. So thank you so much for listening today. It means a lot you took time out of your day. I don't take that lightly. Understand very clearly that you're very busy. With that being said, if you want to continue your journey and learn more about 24/7 Mindset, if you're on Facebook, which I'm going to guess you are, then go to 24/7 Mindset on Facebook and join the private community. I do coaching tips on there on a daily basis, but from scripts on there to systems on there, models, and the ability to be able to grow and scale a business while you have a quality of life. Hope to see you there.